Let me ask you, if you lived the next 30 days with absolute focus, what would your life look like at the end of September? That's the challenge I want to put before you today. Here's my promise. If you'll stay with me for the next 80 minutes, I'll give you a 30-day plan to reset your life in September. You'll learn how to set your sail with a new philosophy, how to build daily discipline, how to sow the right seeds, how to set goals that pull you forward, how to choose associations that lift you, and how to keep learning long after the classroom. You'll walk away with a practical challenge. You can live every day for 30 days, a challenge that can make you unrecognizable by the 1st of October. I know what it feels like to waste months, to look back at a year and realize nothing much has changed. Same income, same weight, same problems. It's a discouraging feeling. And I also know the thrill of turning things around in just weeks of setting new disciplines, of watching the momentum build, of seeing people say, "You're not the same person." That's what this September challenge is about. 30 days of new thinking, new sowing, new discipline. And if you'll commit, you'll be amazed how fast life can change. So here's how we'll spend our time together. First, we'll talk about philosophy, because if you don't change how you think, nothing else matters. Then we'll talk about discipline, the difference between ounces today and tons tomorrow. We'll go through the law of sowing and reaping, the guarantee that you will always harvest what you plant. We'll look at goals, the magnets that pull you forward instead of leaving you to drift. We'll study associations, the influence of the people who shape you every day. We'll cover self-education, the decision to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And then I'll hand you the September plan, 30 days, step by step, to become a completely new you by the end of the month. Along the way, I'll share the stories, the mistakes, the breakthroughs that turned my own life around, including the day I couldn't buy a $2 box of cookies. Stay with me, because this challenge can be the turning point of your year, maybe even your life. Now, here's something most people completely miss. They think their life is shaped by circumstances, by the economy, by the company they work for, by the government, by the season they're in. And when things don't go right, they point to the wind. They say, "If only my boss paid me more. If only taxes weren't so high. If only I had started in a different place." And I understand that kind of thinking, because that was exactly my philosophy at 25 years old. I was broke, behind on promises, and embarrassed to admit it. And in my mind, it was always the wind's fault. But here's what I discovered, and once I learned it, it changed my life forever. The same wind blows on us all. The winds of opportunity, the winds of difficulty, the winds of change, the winds of tragedy. We all face them. The question is not whether the wind is fair, because the wind doesn't care who you are. The question is, how have you set your sail? Because it's not the wind that takes you where you want to go, it's the set of the sail. Let me paint a picture. Imagine two ships leaving the same harbor on the same day, under the same sky. They face the same currents, the same winds, the same storms. One arrives safely in a prosperous port. The other ends up wrecked on the rocks. What made the difference? Not the wind. The difference was the set of the sail. And that's exactly how life works. The same storm that breaks one person builds another. The same crisis that makes one bitter makes another stronger. The same September that some people waste, others use as a turning point. The difference isn't the wind, it's the sail. Now, why does this matter so much for you? Because if you keep blaming the wind, you'll never take control of your future. You'll spend your life waiting for conditions to change, for the government to fix things, for your company to pay more, for luck to finally smile your way. But the winds will never stop shifting. They blow on all of us. The only thing you can control is your sail, your philosophy, the way you think, the conclusions you live by. And if you'll adjust your sail this September, even slightly, you can change your entire direction by October. Let me tell you what happened to me. At 25, after years of blaming everything outside of me, a wise man asked me to write down a list of all my excuses. So I did. I wrote down taxes, the economy, my company, my lack of resources, my lack of education. It was a long list. And when I showed it to him, he looked at it and said, "Jim, there's one problem with this list. You're not on it." That was the day I tore up my excuse list and started writing a new one, a list that began with me. That was the day I realized my philosophy had been set in the wrong direction. Now, let me ask you, how's your sail set? What's been guiding your direction? Have you been saying, "If only September were easier"? Or have you been saying, "I wish I were better this September"? That single shift in philosophy makes all the difference. Because the truth is, you can't change the wind, but you can change yourself. And when you change yourself, you can change everything else. So here's the challenge. As we step into September, don't waste 30 days cursing the wind. Spend 30 days adjusting your sail. Replace excuses with responsibility. Replace blaming with learning. Replace wishing with working. And I promise you, by October, people will say, I don't even recognize you. That's powerful enough on its own. But combine it with what I'm about to share next, how to reset your philosophy in 30 days, step by step, and you'll see why September can be the month that turns your entire year around. Now, here's the encouraging truth, and I want you to really hear this. You don't need 30 years to change your philosophy. You don't need even 3 years. You can begin the reset in just 30 days. In fact, if you take this September challenge seriously, by the end of the month, you can already feel your direction shifting. And remember, direction is everything. If the sail is pointed wrong, no amount of effort will get you where you want to go. But once you reset the sail, even slightly, the very same wind that used to push against you will start carrying you forward. That's the miracle of philosophy. So how do you reset it? You start by paying attention. For the next 30 days, I want you to become a student of your own thoughts. Carry a notebook. Keep a journal. Capture the words that come out of your mouth and the beliefs that echo in your mind. Write them down. Don't judge them, just record them. Because here's what most people never realize. The things you say to yourself every day are quietly shaping your future. Words like, I'll never get ahead. I don't have enough time. That's just the way it is. Those aren't harmless phrases, those are philosophies. And philosophies, once accepted, become like ropes tied to the rudder of your life, pulling you toward a destination, whether you want it or not. And once you've got those thoughts on paper, here's the next step. Challenge them. Hold them up to the light and ask, is this really true? Is this serving me? Or is it sabotaging me? Where did I even get this idea? You'll be surprised how many of your guiding philosophies were handed to you without your permission from your family, your friends, your school, the culture around you. And yet, without realizing it, you've been sailing your whole life according to their directions. That's why September is your month to take the wheel back. Now comes the most important part. Replace the old with the new. Cross out the excuses and write down responsibility. Cross out the limits and write down possibility. Change I can't into I'm learning. Change I don't have time into I control my schedule. Change I wish it were easier into I wish I were better. That last one turned my life upside down. For years, I prayed that life would get easier. Then I heard the words, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. That one idea reset my sail, and I've never drifted the same way since. Now you may be thinking, can 30 days really make a difference? And the answer is yes, because you're not trying to finish the journey in 30 days. You're trying to prove to yourself that you can change direction. That's the breakthrough. Once you know you can examine your own thinking, challenge it, and replace it, you'll never again believe you're stuck. You'll know you can turn the sail whenever you choose. And that knowledge gives you freedom. So here's your September assignment. Every day, capture one old thought and replace it with a new one. Just one. Write it in your journal. At the end of the month, you'll have 30 new philosophies written down, 30 better sails, 30 new directions. And those 30 ideas can set the course for the next 30 years. That's how powerful 1 month can be. So don't drift through September. Reset your philosophy. Plant the seeds of new thinking. And watch how quickly your boat begins to turn. Now, once the sail is set, once the philosophy is aligned, the next step is to keep the ship steady on course. And that's where discipline comes in. Because philosophy decides the direction, but discipline decides whether you keep moving forward or drift back again. And the difference between the pain of discipline and the pain of regret is the difference between a September of momentum and an October of disappointment. That's what we'll talk about next. Now, once you've begun to reset your philosophy, once you've turned the sail in the right direction, the next question is this: how do you keep the ship steady against the wind? And the answer is discipline. Philosophy sets the direction, but discipline keeps you on course. And here's the truth I discovered. Every one of us must suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And there's a world of difference between the two. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And the tragedy of life is that most people end up carrying tons simply because they refuse to carry a few ounces each day. Think about it. What does discipline cost? Not much. A few minutes of focus. The discomfort of saying no when it would be easier to say yes. The effort to wake up a little earlier or stay a little later. The decision to save $1 instead of spending it. The discipline of picking up a book when you'd rather pick up the remote. That's the pain of discipline light. Temporary, manageable. Now compare it with regret. Regret is the ache that never leaves. Regret is the voice that says, if only I had. If only I had started sooner. If only I had been consistent. Regret is years wasted, opportunities lost, promises broken. Regret weighs tons, and it always arrives too late. Let me give you a picture. Carrying discipline is like carrying a small backpack on your shoulders. Sure, you feel the weight, but it keeps you upright. It strengthens your frame, and it allows you to move forward with confidence. Regret, on the other hand, is like dragging a chain with a boulder attached. At first you say, I can manage this. It's not too bad. But over time, the weight grows heavier. The chain cuts deeper, until one day you find yourself barely moving, worn down by years of neglect. And the worst part is, you can't go back and change it. The season has passed, the harvest is gone, and all that's left is the heavy ache of too late. Now, why does this matter for September? Because this month gives you a choice. You can carry the light weight of new disciplines, reading a little each day, saving a little each day, exercising a little each day, writing in your journal. Or you can skip it, put it off, drift along, and carry the tons of regret when October arrives and you realize nothing has changed. This is why I call discipline the bridge to accomplishment. You can dream, you can set goals, you can design your life on paper, but without discipline, you'll never cross the bridge. You'll stand on the shore of intention while your dreams remain on the other side. And here's why people resist discipline. Because neglect doesn't punish immediately. If you skip a workout today, nothing breaks. If you don't save $1 today, no one calls you out. If you skip a chapter of reading, the world doesn't fall apart. And so you say, see, it didn't matter. But that's the deception. Because the effects of neglect compound quietly until one day they crush you. Failure is nothing more than a few small errors in judgment repeated every day. But success is just as simple, a few simple disciplines practiced every day. That's the difference. So let me ask you, which pain will you choose this September? The ounces of discipline or the tons of regret? Because you can't escape both. Life will demand a price, and you must decide which one you're willing to pay. Pay ounces now, and October will reward you with confidence, progress, momentum. Refuse, and October will hand you regret, disappointment, and the heavy weight of lost opportunity. That's powerful enough to think about on its own. But combine it with what I'm about to show you next, how to actually build those disciplines in the next 30 days, and you'll see why this September can be the month you finally turn words into action, and action into results. Now, once you understand the difference between the ounces of discipline and the tons of regret, the natural question is, how do I start? How do I actually build discipline into my life so that it works for me instead of against me? And the answer may surprise you. You don't start with something massive. You don't begin by trying to run a marathon or save a fortune or write a book in a week. You start small because the smallest disciplines, repeated, create the strongest foundations. The mistake most people make is that they think discipline has to be dramatic. But the truth is, discipline is quiet. Discipline is simple. Discipline is what you do every day when no one's watching. And if you'll practice it faithfully for 30 days, you'll discover something extraordinary. Momentum will take over. And it will be easier to keep going than to stop. So here's how you can begin in September. On day one, start a journal. Not a fancy book, not a complicated system. Just a notebook where you capture your thoughts. Write down what happened that day, what you learned, what you regret, what you're grateful for. Write down the little victories and the lessons and the setbacks. Because here's the truth. The weakest ink is stronger than the strongest memory. A journal becomes your textbook for your own life. And if you'll begin this discipline in September, by October, you'll already have 30 pages of proof that you're changing. Next, add a financial discipline. Save $1 a day. That's it. Just one. Why? Because if you can't save $1, chances are you won't save 100. Wealth doesn't start with amounts. It starts with habits. And when you build the habit, the amounts will grow. $1 a day in September may not look like much, but it's the seed of financial independence. Then, Add a mental discipline. Read for 15 minutes each day. Pick up a good book, one that stretches your thinking and sharpens your philosophy. 15 minutes a day might not sound like much, but do it for 30 days and you've finished a book. Do it for a year and you've read a small library. And that library can change the entire course of your life. Because one idea, captured and acted on, can multiply into results beyond imagination. And don't forget your body. Move it. Walk for 10 minutes. Stretch. Climb the stairs. You don't need to become an athlete overnight. You just need to remind yourself daily that your body is your vessel. And if you care for it, it will carry you further and longer. 30 days of simple movement in September will leave you stronger, lighter, and more confident by October. Now here's the key. Don't overwhelm yourself with too many new disciplines at once. Pick one or two and practice them daily for 30 days. Because the real value isn't in the size of the habit, it's in the proof that you can keep a promise to yourself. That proof is priceless. Once you know you can change one habit, you know you can change another and another until your whole life is transformed. And let me give you an analogy. Think of discipline like planting seeds. You don't see the tree grow overnight. You don't see fruit in the first week. But every day you water, every day you tend, every day you nurture, the seed strengthens underground until one day it breaks the surface. That's how discipline works. In September, you plant. In October, you begin to see sprouts. And if you keep tending, the harvest will come. Always later, always greater, always exactly what you planted. So let this be your challenge. For the next 30 days, pick one discipline and keep it faithfully. Don't break the chain. Don't make excuses. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Just do it. At the end of the month, you'll be amazed not only at the habit itself, but at the person you've become. Because discipline doesn't just change your actions, it changes your identity. You'll begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who keeps promises, someone who can be trusted by others and by yourself. And that new identity will become the foundation for every other success in your life. Now, that's powerful enough to consider on its own that you can begin to build new habits in just 30 days. But combine it with the next principle, and you'll see why September is more than just a month on the calendar. It's a season of planting, and if you sow wisely this month, you'll reap a harvest in October and beyond that you never thought possible. That's the law of sowing and reaping, and that's where we'll go next. Here's one of the greatest lessons life has ever taught me. And once you see it clearly, you'll never be the same. You reap what you sow. That's it. That's the law. It's not complicated. It's not hidden. It's not mysterious. And it doesn't bend for anyone. If you plant corn, you get corn. If you plant weeds, you get weeds. If you plant nothing, you reap nothing. Now that sounds so simple, but it's amazing how many people live as though it isn't true. They waste the season. They scatter excuses instead of seeds. And then when harvest time comes, they stand in the field with empty hands, wondering why there's nothing to gather. But the soil doesn't lie. The harvest always tells the truth. Why is this so important to understand right now? Because September is a seed month. It's a season of planting. And what you put in the ground in these 30 days will decide what you hold in your hands in October and beyond. The future isn't a mystery. The future is simply the harvest of today's planting. If you want a different harvest next month, next year, next decade, the change must start now with the seeds you choose to sow this very week. Now let's look at the 3 guarantees of this law. First, you always reap later than you sow. That's why so many people give up. They plant for a few days. They discipline themselves for a week. They speak kindness for a short season. And then when nothing happens right away, they quit. But that's not how it works. The farmer doesn't plant in the morning and harvest at night. There's always a delay. There's always a season of waiting. And that's why patience is part of success. If you can't endure the waiting season, you'll never enjoy the harvest season. So remember, if you've sown faithfully, the results are already on the way. They're just not here yet. Second, you always reap greater than you sow. That's the miracle of multiplication. Plant one kernel of corn and you get a stalk with multiple ears, each filled with kernels. Sow a little discipline and you reap character and confidence. Sow a kind word and you reap a friendship that blesses you for years. Sow 1 hour of study and you reap skills that multiply your opportunities. But remember, the reverse is also true. Sow one careless word and you can reap years of distrust. Sow a little neglect and you can reap a field full of regret. The soil multiplies whatever you give it, good or bad. Third, you always reap exactly what you sow. You don't plant wheat and get corn. You don't plant excuses and harvest results. You don't plant laziness and reap excellence. You get back what you planted, later and greater. That's why I always say, don't try to fool the soil. It can't be tricked. You can fool your neighbor, you can fool your boss, you can even fool yourself for a while, but the harvest will always tell the truth. If the harvest is poor, it's not the soil's fault. It's the seed you planted. Let me give you an image. Picture a farmer in springtime, standing by his empty field with a bag full of seed. He looks up to the sky and says, "Give me a harvest, and then I'll plant." We'd laugh, wouldn't we? We'd call him foolish. But that's exactly how many people live their lives. They say, "Give me money, and then I'll start managing it. Give me health, and then I'll exercise. Give me respect, and then I'll act with integrity." But the law says no. First you sow, then you reap. First you plant, then you harvest. That's the order, and you can't change it. And here's the warning. You can't change the harvest by complaining. You can't stand in a field of weeds and curse it until it turns into wheat. You can't wish the season away. You can't beg the soil to give you more than you planted. Complaining is wasted energy. The only way to change the harvest is to change the seed. And the only way to change the seed is to change what you do today. So let me ask you plainly, what are you sowing this September? What seeds are you planting with your words, with your habits, with your money, with your time? Because whether you realize it or not, you are planting every day. Every word you speak is a seed. Every choice you make is a seed. Every action, every neglect, every discipline, all seeds. And come October, you'll be standing in a field of your own making, and the harvest will not lie. That's powerful enough to stop and reflect on by itself, that September is a seed month, and October will be your harvest. But combine it with what I'm about to share next, and you'll see exactly how to apply this law in your week, in your relationships, in your work, in your health, so that 30 days from now you can stand in your own field and smile because you know you planted the right seed. Now that you understand the law, the next step is very practical. How do you apply it? Not someday, not in theory, but in this very month of September. Because here's the good news. You don't need to wait years to feel the difference. When you sow deliberately, even for 30 days, you can already see sprouts pushing through the soil. Not the full harvest yet, but the undeniable proof that the law is working. And that proof will encourage you to keep going. That's why I say September is the month of planting. If you waste these 30 days, you've wasted one of the best opportunities to reset your harvest for the rest of the year. So let's talk about where to sow. Start with your words. For the next 30 days, let every word you speak be a seed worth planting. Sow encouragement, and you'll reap trust. Sow gratitude, and you'll reap joy. Sow honesty, and you'll reap respect. But sow gossip, and you'll reap suspicion. Sow criticism, and you'll reap distance. Sow excuses, and you'll reap weakness. Words don't vanish into the air. They fall like seeds into the soil of relationships, and the harvest will come. So guard your tongue this month as carefully as a farmer guards his field. Next, sow in your habits. Think of your daily routines as rows in the soil. Each choice plants something neglect or discipline. If you spend the evening with distractions, you've sown neglect. If you spend it with a book, you've sown learning. If you skip your walk, you've sown weakness. If you take the walk, you've sown strength. The habits you plant in September will be the character you live with in October. That's how direct the law is. Then sow in your relationships. In the next 30 days, make it your mission to plant kindness wherever you go. Call a friend, write a note, offer encouragement, forgive someone. These are seeds of goodwill. And though you may not reap the full harvest this month, you'll see the sprouts quickly. A smile, a thank you, a door opening. And over time, those small acts will grow into trust, loyalty, and friendships that bless you for years. Don't forget to sow in your finances. Put something away every day, even if it's just $1. Because every dollar saved is a seed planted, and those seeds grow into security, freedom, and opportunity. Too many people say, when I make more, then I'll save. But the law doesn't work that way. You must sow first. Even small amounts, given time, multiply. September is the perfect month to start, because if you'll build the habit now, by the end of the year, you'll already have a new harvest beginning. And here's the warning. If you don't sow deliberately, you'll still reap, but you'll reap weeds, because the law doesn't stop working just because you ignore it. If you sow excuses, you'll reap regret. If you sow laziness, you'll reap dependence. If you sow procrastination, you'll reap lost opportunities. Some people think a wasted day is just a wasted day. But no, a wasted day is a seed, and it will produce a harvest of wasted weeks, wasted months, wasted years. That's the sobering truth of the law. So here's my challenge to you this September. Choose 3 seeds to sow deliberately. Maybe it's words of encouragement, a habit of reading, and a daily act of kindness. Or maybe it's saving money, exercising, and journaling. Pick 3, commit to them for 30 days, and plant them faithfully. At the end of the month, look back at your field. You'll see sprouts where before there was only bare ground. And once you see those sprouts, you'll know the harvest is coming. And that's the beauty of this law. Once you understand it, once you apply it, you stop living like a victim of chance. You stop asking, what kind of future will I have? Because you already know. The future is simply the harvest of today's seeds. And if you plant wisely this September, by October, you'll hold in your hands the first fruits of a brand new life. Now that's powerful enough to stand on its own. But combine it with what I'm about to share next, and you'll see why even the best planting fails without clear direction. Because you can sow seeds all month long, but if you're not planting with a vision, with goals that guide you, you'll end up with a field of scattered growth and no harvest worth gathering. That's why the next step is goals and vision. And that's where we'll go next. Now here's something I want you to think about very carefully, because it might be the most important shift you make this month. Without goals, life becomes survival. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you pay the bills, you go to bed, and then you do it all again. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and one day you look back and realize a whole year has gone by and not much has changed. Same income, same frustrations, same disappointments. That's the danger of drifting. You're busy, you're active, you're sincere, but you're not moving forward. I know this because that's how I lived for the first 25 years of my life. I worked hard, I gave effort, I was sincere. But after 6 years, I had nothing but pennies in my pocket, promises I couldn't keep, and embarrassment every time someone asked me about my progress. And then one day, my mentor asked me a question that cut me to the core. He said, "Jim, can I see your list of goals?" And I had to admit, I didn't have one. I had vague wishes, ideas floating around in my head. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to be healthier. I'd like to travel someday. But nothing written down, nothing clear, nothing specific. And my mentor said, "Well then, young man, I can guess your bank balance within a few $100s. And he was right, because without goals, I was drifting. And drifting always leads to empty pockets and empty hands. That was the day I learned that the size of your goals determines the size of your life. If your goals are small, your accomplishments will be small. If your goals are vague, your progress will be vague. If your goals are non-existent, your life will be filled with regret. But if your goals are vivid, specific, alive, they become magnets that pull you forward. They give structure to your days, energy to your efforts, and meaning to your struggles. That's the miracle of goals. They don't just change your future, they change your present. The moment you set a goal, your behavior begins to shift. You start to notice opportunities you used to miss. You start filtering your choices through a new lens. Does this move me closer to my goal or further away? And that single filter can save you years of wasted time. Now let me give you a contrast. Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do planning their entire life. They'll research hotels, compare flights, read reviews, schedule activities. They'll plan every detail of their trip, but when it comes to the next 10, 20, 30 years of their life, they leave it to chance. And then they wonder why they arrive at a destination they never wanted. But the answer is simple. Without goals, you drift. With goals, you design. And design is always better than drift. And here's another truth. The real value of a goal is not what you get, but who you become. If you set a goal to become a millionaire, the $1 million is not the true prize. The real prize is the discipline, the courage, the wisdom, the skills you develop along the way. Because if someone hands you the money without the growth, you'll lose it. But if you earn it, even if you lose it, you can build it again, because the true fortune is you. So let me ask you, do you have your goals written down? Do you have them sharp and specific on paper? Or are they still floating around in your head, vague and weak? Because here's the truth. Goals not written are only wishes. And wishes don't pull. They don't discipline. They don't inspire. Written goals are what transform a wish into a plan, a dream into a destination, a drift into a design. And that's why September is the perfect month to reset your goals. Don't wait for January 1st. Don't wait for someday. If you want October to look different than August, then September must be the month you take the time to write, to clarify, to design. Don't waste another 30 days in drift when you could spend them in design. That's powerful enough to stop and think about by itself. But combine it with what I'm about to share next, how to actually do a full September goal reset step by step. And you'll have a plan that can carry you not just through this month, but through the next decade. Now let's get practical. It's one thing to talk about why goals matter, but it's another thing to sit down and actually design them. Here's something most people completely miss. They think goals belong to January. They think you wait for a new year, you get your fresh calendar, and you start scribbling wishes. But let me tell you the truth, September is the real starting line. Why? Because September is when the year is still alive. You've got 4 strong months left to make something happen. If you wait until January, you've lost the fall. You've lost the momentum. You've lost the chance to plant seeds that could be harvested before winter. That's why I call this the September reset. This is the month when you take charge, when you put pen to paper, when you design instead of drift. So here's the exercise. Find a quiet place, clear a table, take out a notebook, and don't just think about goals, write them. Not 3, not 5, not 10. I want you to stretch your imagination until you've got 50 to 100 things written down. Everything you want to do, everything you want to be, everything you want to see, everything you want to have, everywhere you want to go. Don't edit. Don't worry if it sounds impossible. Don't stop to explain how, just write. Because the act of writing is the act of pulling dreams out of the fog and into the light. A goal unwritten is just a wish, but a goal written becomes a blueprint. And when you've got a blueprint, you can build. Now, once you've got your list, the next step is to put time frames on each one. Look at every goal and ask yourself, is this a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, or a 10-year goal? Maybe some are only a 30-day goal. I want to lose 5 pounds. Maybe some are 10-year goals. I want to own a house by the ocean. The point is, don't leave them floating. Anchor them to time. Because a goal without a timeline is just a dream. But when you put a date on it, the clock starts ticking. And suddenly today matters. And here's where it gets interesting. From that big list, I want you to pick 4 from each category. 4 1-year goals, 4 3-year goals, 4 5-year goals, 4 10-year goals. That gives you 16 goals. 16 dreams you've chosen as most important. And then for each of those, write a short paragraph. What exactly do you want? And why do you want it? The what sharpens the picture, but the why gives it power. If the why is strong enough, the how will show up. But if you don't know why you want something, you'll never have the discipline to fight for it when the winds get rough. Let me give you an example. Years ago, some of our astronauts came back from the moon. Think about that, the moon. They achieved what no human had ever done before. And yet, when they returned, some of them were depressed. Do you know why? Because they had no new goals. They had reached the highest peak they could imagine, and then there was nothing left to climb. That's how powerful goals are. Without them, even the greatest success can feel empty. With them, even the smallest steps feel alive with meaning. So let me challenge you. Don't just drift through this September. Don't let it pass like every other month. Sit down and design. Write the 50. Pick the 16. Write the paragraphs. Make the what clear and the why compelling. And if you'll do this, really do it, October will not recognize you. You'll walk into the last quarter of the year with more focus, more energy, more drive than ever before. And here's the best part. When you practice this kind of goal setting in September, you won't just change the last 4 months of this year, you'll change the next 4 decades of your life. Now, once your goals are written, once your sail is set and your direction is clear, you've got to ask yourself one of the most important questions of all. Who am I walking with? Because here's the truth, goals can pull you forward, but the wrong associations can pull you back just as hard. You can write the most beautiful list, design the most vivid future, and discipline yourself for a few days. But if you're surrounded by people who laugh at your goals, who drag down your enthusiasm, who poison your thinking with gossip, excuses, and negativity, sooner or later, their pull will outweigh your push. That's why I say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you want to know your future, look closely at your 5 today. Think of it this way. You can take a clean glass of water, pure, refreshing, clear, and drop in just a little dirt. Now, the water doesn't purify the dirt. The dirt contaminates the water. Influence works the same way. You may have pure goals, clear ambitions, good intentions, but if you let the wrong people drop their dirt into your cup every day, soon your clarity becomes cloudy. You stop believing, you stop pushing, you start making excuses that aren't even yours. That's the danger of careless associations. And here's what makes it tricky. Influence is subtle. No one announces, I'm about to ruin your philosophy today. No, it's in the jokes, the sarcasm, the endless complaining, the subtle digs at your ambition. And if you don't guard against it, you'll slowly begin to talk like them, think like them, live like them. Before you know it, you've become the average of their lives. That's why September is the month to evaluate your associations. Write down your 5. Look at each one honestly. Do they lift you or do they drag you? Do they inspire you or do they discourage you? Do they stretch your vision or shrink it? That one list may reveal more about your future than any other exercise you do this month. Now, here's the good news. Just as negative associations can drag you down, positive ones can lift you higher than you ever imagined. Spend time with disciplined people, and suddenly discipline feels normal. Spend time with readers, and you'll want to read. Spend time with people who dream, and your own dreams will expand. Influence works both ways, and it's just as powerful in the positive direction. That's why you need to deliberately seek out those who make you better. If you don't have them in your immediate circle, find them in books, in recordings, in seminars. Some of my greatest mentors I never met in person. I met them through their ideas, and their influence shaped me just as much as those I spoke with face to face. So here's your September assignment. Take inventory of your associations. On one side of the page, write the names of those who lift you. On the other side, write the names of those who drain you, and then make adjustments. It doesn't mean you cut everyone out. It doesn't mean you stop loving people, but it does mean you limit your exposure to those who poison your water, and you increase your time with those who keep it clean, because your future is too important to hand it over to the wrong crowd. Let me say it again. Your goals can pull you, but the wrong people can drag you back. Guard your associations this September, and you'll step into October lighter, clearer, stronger, and more focused than ever before. Now that's powerful enough on its own, but combine it with what I'm about to show you next, and you'll understand why this September challenge can change not only your present, but your future. Because the next piece is self-education, the decision to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And when you make that choice, everything begins to shift. That's what we'll talk about next. Now, here's one of the greatest discoveries I ever made, and I want you to let it sink in deeply. Formal education can make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune. And by fortune, I don't just mean money, though money is part of it. I mean a fortune in wisdom, a fortune in confidence, a fortune in influence, a fortune in the richness of your life. You see, a diploma may help you get a job, but it will never guarantee you wealth. It will never guarantee you freedom, and it will never guarantee you happiness. Those things don't come from the school system. They come from what you learn after the classroom, from what you teach yourself, from the books you choose to read, the mentors you choose to follow, the journals you choose to write, the ideas you choose to capture. That's where real wealth begins. Why does this matter so much in September? Because this month gives you the perfect chance to start. You can decide right now that September will be your library month, your learning month, your self-education month. And here's the good news. You don't need permission. You don't need enrollment. You don't need approval. You can start with one book, one idea, one seminar, one journal. That's how I began. At 25 years old, I was broke, behind on bills, embarrassed by my results, and frustrated with myself. Then I met a man who told me, Jim, success isn't something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. And that was the day I decided to work harder on myself than I did on my job. That was the day I began my self-education. So let me ask you, what have you been feeding your mind? Because your mind is the factory of your future. If you feed it nothing but entertainment, gossip, and distraction, don't be surprised when your harvest is weak. But if you feed it ideas, wisdom, and truth, then your harvest will be strong. This September, make the choice to sow learning into your life every day. Read for 30 minutes. Carry a book with you instead of a phone. Listen to recordings in your car instead of noise on the radio. Capture ideas in a journal before they slip away. Because ideas are slippery, they can vanish as quickly as they appear. But if you trap them in ink, you can return to them, refine them, apply them, and let them shape you again and again. And here's what makes self-education so powerful. One idea can change everything. One sentence, one story, one revelation can reset the course of your life. That's why I built a library in my house. That's why I filled journal after journal. Because I didn't know which idea would be the one, and I didn't want to miss it. And neither should you. September is your chance. Make it your library month. Make it the month you feed your mind like never before. Because if you do, October will not recognize you. Now, some people say, but books cost money. Programs cost money. Seminars cost money. And I always tell them, ignorance costs more. A book might cost you $10, but the right idea from that book could make you 10,000. A seminar might cost a few hundred, but the insights you gain could multiply your income for the rest of your life. That's not an expense. That's an investment. And the returns are endless. The tragedy is that most people will waste more money on distractions this month than they'll ever spend on self-education. Don't let that be you. So here's your September challenge. Pick one book that stretches you, one book that challenges your philosophy, one book that sharpens your vision. Read it in 30 days. Take notes. Capture ideas. And when you come across a thought that stirs you, don't just nod your head and let it pass. Write it down. Reflect on it. Apply it. Because learning without application is just trivia. But learning applied becomes wisdom. And wisdom is what shapes destiny. So never stop learning. Never stop growing. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because the more you become, the more you can have, and the more you can give. And that's the true fortune. Now that's powerful enough on its own, but combine it with what I'm about to show you next, and you'll have more than just principles. You'll have a practical plan. Because I want to give you the full September challenge, laid out day by day, week by week, so you can test all of this for yourself and prove that in 30 days, you can become a completely new you. That's what we'll cover next. Now here's where it all comes together. Philosophy, discipline, sowing and reaping, goals, associations, self-education, all of it has been building to this point. Because it's one thing to understand the principles, to nod your head and say, yes, that's true. But it's another thing to put it into practice, to actually live it out. Knowledge without action doesn't change anything. Understanding without application leaves you the same. That's why I want to give you this September challenge, 30 days of deliberate action, step by step, to prove to yourself that you can change, not next year, not someday, but right now. And if you'll do it, if you'll commit to this plan, then by the 1st of October, you won't recognize yourself. Others won't recognize you. And you'll have the proof, written in your own life, that change is possible. So let's break it down week by week. Week 1 is about clarity. In these first 7 days, I want you to sit down and write your goals. All of them. Empty your head onto paper. 50, 100, as many as you can. Big goals, small goals, short term, long term. Don't filter, don't edit, just write. Because a goal not written is only a wish, but a goal written becomes a seed. And alongside your goals, I want you to start your journal. Just 10 minutes a day, writing down what happened, what you learned, what you felt, what you regret, what you're grateful for. By the end of week 1, you'll already have pages of dreams and days of reflection. That's clarity. And clarity is power. Week 2 is about discipline. Take one new habit, just one, and practice it every day. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes. Maybe it's saving $1. Maybe it's walking for 10 minutes. Maybe it's writing a daily reflection. Don't overwhelm yourself with 5 or 10 new habits. Pick one and don't miss a day. Because the real value isn't the size of the habit. It's the proof that you can keep a promise to yourself. That proof is worth more than gold. Because once you've proven you can do one, you'll know you can do more. Week 3 is about relationships. Take inventory of your associations. Write down your 5. Who lifts you? Who drains you? Who stretches your vision? And who shrinks it? And then make adjustments. Spend more time with those who inspire you, less with those who poison your water. And in the same week, sow kindness deliberately. Every day, do something for someone else. A note, a call, a word of encouragement, a small act of generosity. Those are seeds. And the law says they will come back to you multiplied. Week 4 is about growth. Commit to reading one book this month, 30 minutes a day. Choose something that stretches you, that challenges your philosophy, that sharpens your thinking. Take notes, underline, capture ideas. And then, at the end of the month, take an hour to reflect. Review your journal, reread your goals, examine your new habit, look at your relationships, consider the kindness you sowed, and ask yourself, what did I learn? Where did I grow? What do I want to keep going? That hour of reflection is what turns 30 days of effort into a lifetime of wisdom. Now let me tell you why this plan works. Because momentum is real. Think of a rocket leaving the Earth. Most of the fuel is burned at liftoff, not in orbit. Why? Because it takes tremendous energy to break free from gravity. But once it's free, momentum carries it forward with far less effort. That's what these 30 days are. They're your liftoff, the concentrated push that breaks you free from old habits, from excuses, from drift. And once you're free, momentum will make it easier to keep going than to stop. So don't underestimate what 30 days can do. Don't waste this September, because you've only got one September, 2025. And once it's gone forever. Make it count. Let this be the month you reset your sail, you build your bridge, you plant your seeds, you write your goals, you choose your friends, you feed your mind, and you prove to yourself that you can change. Because here's the truth. 30 days of drift won't matter much now, but 30 days of drift repeated 12 times becomes a wasted year, and 12 wasted years becomes a wasted life. But 30 days of design, practiced once, can spark a habit that carries you for decades. That's the September challenge. That's your chance to become a completely new you. Now that's powerful enough to stop right here. But combine it with the final step, the way we'll close this challenge, and you'll see how to carry this momentum, not just through September, but through every season that follows. Because life doesn't just come in days and months. It comes in seasons. And the secret to long-term success is learning how to master them all. That's where we'll go next. So here we are at the end of this challenge. And I want you to take just a moment to think back over what we've covered together. We started with philosophy, the set of the sail that determines your direction, no matter how the winds blow. We looked at discipline, the bridge between intention and accomplishment, the difference between carrying ounces today or tons tomorrow. We studied the law of sowing and reaping, the guarantee that you always reap later, you always reap greater, and you always reap exactly what you plant. We explored the power of goals, the difference between drifting through life and designing it with clarity and purpose. We examined the influence of associations, how the people around you either lift you higher or drag you down. We saw the value of self-education, the decision to work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because your value to the marketplace and to life determines your rewards. And finally, we tied it all together in a practical 30-day plan, the September Challenge, a plan to prove to yourself that you can change, not in some distant future, but right here, right now, in 1 month of focused effort. Now, I want you to let this truth sink deep into your heart. Success is not complicated. It is not hidden. It is not scarce. Success is simply a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. That's all. You don't need genius. You don't need luck. You don't need a miracle. You just need the willingness to plant the seed, to reset the sail, to build the bridge, to choose the right friends, to read the right books, to write your goals, and to practice your disciplines. And if you'll do that for 30 days, you'll already begin to see sprouts of a new harvest. By October, you'll feel the pull of momentum, and you'll know that change is not only possible, it's inevitable when you commit to the process. But here's the warning. If you walk away from this message with nothing more than notes in your journal and good intentions in your mind, nothing changes. The winds will keep blowing, the seasons will keep turning, and you'll find yourself in October with nothing more than the same excuses you carried into September. Don't let that happen. Don't waste this month. Don't waste the chance to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Take the challenge, do the work, plant the seeds, keep the disciplines. And when October comes, you'll be standing in your own field, smiling at the sprouts, knowing that a harvest is on its way. And here's what I promise you. Once you've proved to yourself that you can change in 30 days, you'll never again believe the lie that you're stuck. You'll know the truth that you can reset anytime, that you can grow anytime, that you can design your life anytime. And that knowledge will give you freedom. Because once you know you can change, you can never go back to drift. So let me leave you with this challenge. Don't drift through September. Don't let these 30 days slip by as if they don't matter. Live them with purpose. Live them with discipline. Live them with design. And when you do, you'll arrive in October, not the same person, but a new person, stronger, clearer, wiser, more disciplined, more alive. Let people say, I don't even recognize you anymore. That's the September challenge. That's your chance to become a completely new you. And when you've taken these first steps, there's one more lesson you'll need if you want to keep the momentum alive for the rest of your life. Because no matter how strong your philosophy, no matter how sharp your goals, no matter how steady your discipline, life will always bring its seasons. Winter will come, but so will spring. Summer will require your effort, and fall will demand your accountability. And if you can learn how to master the seasons of life, you'll never again be surprised. You'll be prepared. You'll know how to plant in spring, protect in summer, harvest in fall, and endure in winter. That's the next step. That's the lesson I want you to hear. So click through, join me there, and let's keep building together. Because the best path to success is not behind you, it's right in front of you. And it begins now. So here we are, at the end of our time together. And I want you to pause for just a moment. Sit with me in this thought. September is slipping by even as you hear these words. Days are passing, hours are ticking, the clock is moving. And the question is not whether the time will pass, it always will. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you let September go the way August went, the way July went, the way too many months before have gone busy, scattered, drifting, filled with good intentions but little progress? Or will you mark this September as the turning point? The month when you drew a line, when you reset the sail, when you planted new seeds, when you set goals, when you built new habits, when you examined your associations, when you opened a book, when you took responsibility, when you said, enough of drift, I choose design. That's the choice before you, and no one can make it for you. I've told you my story broke at 25, embarrassed, pockets empty, promises unkept, blaming the wind. And I've told you how everything turned. Not because the wind changed, not because the economy changed, not because my company suddenly got generous, but because I changed. Because I tore up my excuse list and I reset my sail. Because I stopped wishing it were easier and I wished I were better. Because I chose the ounces of discipline instead of the tons of regret. Because I began sowing good seed instead of complaining about bad harvests. Because I sat down and wrote goals, vivid, specific, alive, and I let them pull me. Because I evaluated who I was walking with and I chose wisely. Because I decided to work harder on myself than I did on my job. To read, to journal, to learn, to grow. And because I put all of it into daily practice. That's how I turned my life around. And if it worked for me, it can work for you. But here's the danger. Some of you will hear this and nod your head. You'll agree. You'll feel inspired. You'll say, yes, I really should do this. And then you'll do nothing. And in 30 days, you'll look back and nothing will have changed. And the regret of another wasted month will weigh heavy on your shoulders. Don't let that be you. Don't waste September. Don't waste the chance to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Because here's the truth. If you can't change in 30 days, what makes you think you'll change in 30 years? But if you can change in 1 month, then you can change in 12. And if you can change in 12, you can change in a lifetime. So let me challenge you again. Take the September challenge. 30 days. Write your goals. Keep your journal. Choose one discipline and practice it daily. Evaluate your associations. Sow kindness every day. Read for 30 minutes. Reflect at the end of the week. Do it faithfully. Do it consistently. Do it with conviction. And watch what happens. By October, you will not be the same. By October, you will have momentum. By October, you will have proof. And proof is priceless. Because once you know you can change, you'll never again believe you're stuck. And let me remind you, success is not in short supply. The ocean of opportunity is vast, it is deep, it is endless, and it will never run dry. The only question is, what are you bringing to it? A teaspoon, a cup, a bucket, or a ship? Don't come to the ocean of life with a teaspoon. Don't bring small expectations. Don't bring weak effort. Don't bring half-hearted commitments. Bring your whole self. Bring your goals. Bring your discipline. Bring your courage. Bring your hunger. Because the ocean doesn't care who you are. It simply returns to you in proportion to what you bring. So take September seriously. This is not just another month. This is your month. This is your chance. This is your now or never. 30 days that can change the next 30 years. Don't miss it. Don't drift. Don't delay. Decide. Commit. Begin. And keep going. And when October comes, let people say, I don't even recognize you anymore. Smile and tell them, that's the point. And before we finish, let me tell you what comes next. Because as powerful as these principles are, as strong as your September can be, life will not always feel like September. You will face winters, times when everything seems cold, harsh, unyielding. You will face springs, fresh opportunities, new beginnings, doors opening. You will face summers, the season of labor, of protection, of tending to what you've planted. And you will face autumns, the season of harvest, of accountability, of reward or regret. These seasons are as predictable as the sunrise, and they come to every life. And if you don't understand them, you'll be caught off guard. But if you learn to master them, you'll never again be surprised. You'll know how to endure winter, how to plant in spring, how to labor in summer, how to harvest in fall. That's the next lesson. That's the next step. So when you finish this challenge, don't stop. Join me in the next journey, where we'll talk about the seasons of life. Because if you can master the seasons, then no matter what winds blow, no matter what storms come, you'll always be steady, always be moving forward, always be growing. And that's the ultimate key to lasting success. For now, remember, the best path to success is not behind you. It's not in some distant someday. It's right in front of you. And it begins here. It begins now. It begins in September. Take the challenge. 30 days to a completely new you. So let me say it once more, because I want you to feel the weight of it. September is here. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. 30 days that will pass, whether you use them or not. 30 mornings to wake up with purpose or drift with excuses. 30 evenings to reflect on your progress or regret your neglect. 30 days to either plant seeds that will change your harvest or to scatter weeds that will choke out your future. And the choice belongs to you. Always to you. That's the gift and the responsibility of life. It will never take away your power to choose. And maybe that's the greatest truth I've learned, that success is always a matter of choice. Not luck, not chance, not accident choice. You choose your philosophy, and your philosophy sets your sail. You choose your discipline, and discipline builds the bridge. You choose your seeds, and the seeds guarantee the harvest. You choose your goals, and your goals become magnets that pull you forward. You choose your associations, and they either lift you higher or drag you down. You choose whether to keep learning or to stay the same. And every choice compounds into a destiny. And the beauty of September is that it gives you a concentrated window to test all of it at once. A month to say, I will choose differently. I will choose deliberately. I will choose design over drift. Now I know the temptation. You'll want to put this off. You'll say, I'll start when the year turns. I'll start when the conditions improve. I'll start when life calms down. But let me tell you the truth. If you can't start in September, you won't start in January. Because the winds never stop blowing, the seasons never stop turning, and perfect conditions never arrive. You don't need perfect conditions. You need commitment. You need resolve. You need the courage to say, this is it. This is my month. This is my moment. So don't wait. Don't drift. Don't delay. Decide tonight. Write your goals. Open your journal. Choose your discipline. Plant your seeds. Guard your associations. Read your book. Reflect on your days. Do it faithfully for 30 days, and then stand in the field you've planted. And when October dawns, look at the sprouts breaking the soil and say to yourself, I did this. I changed. I began. I proved that I could. That proof will be the foundation of everything else you build in life. Because once you know you can change in 30 days, you'll know you can change in 30 years. And as we close, let me leave you with one more picture. Life is an ocean, wide and deep, filled with opportunity that never runs dry. The only question is, what vessel are you bringing? A teaspoon, a cup, a bucket, or a ship? Don't come timid. Don't come small. Don't come half-hearted. Bring your ship. Bring your courage, your hunger, your discipline, your design. Because the ocean doesn't care who you are. It simply returns to you in proportion to what you bring. So take the September challenge. Take it seriously. Let this be the month when you stop drifting and start designing. When you stop wishing and start working. When you stop blaming the wind and start resetting the sail. Let this be your turning point. Because 30 days from now, you can be unrecognizable, stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more alive. That's the promise. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. And when you've taken this step, don't stop. Keep going with me into the next lesson, the seasons of life. Because no matter how well you plant, winter will come, but so will spring. No matter how high your goals, summer will demand effort. But fall will always bring accountability. If you master the seasons, you'll never again be surprised by life. You'll always be prepared, and that's the secret to lasting success. So click through, join me there, and let's keep building together. Because the best path to success is not behind you, not waiting for someday, it's right in front of you. And it begins now, in September. So let me say it again, slowly this time, because I don't want you to miss it. You only get one September 2025. That's it. It will come, it will go, and it will never return. You can waste it with excuses, with distractions, with drifting. And when October comes, you'll have nothing but the memory of another month gone. Or you can seize it, live it with intention, with design, with discipline, with purpose. And when October comes, you'll hold in your hands the first fruits of a brand new life. That's the choice. That's always the choice. And no one can make it for you. You see, life is not a lottery. It's not a gamble. It's not luck or chance. Life is a set of laws, and those laws never fail. You set your sail, and you move in the direction of your philosophy. You carry your discipline, and you bridge the gap between dreams and results. You sow your seeds, and you reap your harvest later, greater, and exactly what you planted. You set your goals, and they pull you forward like magnets. You choose your friends, and they shape your character. You keep learning, and you become more valuable, more confident, more capable. And when you put all of that together, you create momentum. And once momentum is on your side, life feels different. You wake up with energy. You go to bed with peace. You look at tomorrow not with dread, but with anticipation. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of this September challenge. But here's the warning, and I've got to be honest with you, because I'd be doing you no good if I didn't say it straight. If you don't decide now, if you don't commit to these 30 days, the odds are high that nothing will change. You'll go back to the same patterns, the same habits, the same excuses. And then when the year ends, you'll look back and say, where did the time go? And regret will sit heavy on your shoulders. Don't add another chapter of disappointment when you could begin a chapter of design. And here's the promise: if you will take these 30 days seriously, if you will write your goals, keep your journal, practice one discipline, plant your seeds, evaluate your associations, read your book, reflect, and recommit, then you'll discover something incredible. You'll discover that change doesn't take forever. Change can happen quickly. Change can happen in a week, in a day, in a decision. And once you know that, once you've proved it to yourself, you'll never again feel powerless. You'll know you can reset anytime, in any month, in any season. That's the freedom this challenge gives you. So let me ask you again, plain and simple. What will you do with September? Will you drift, or will you design? Will you carry excuses, or will you carry discipline? Will you sow weeds, or will you sow seeds? Will you complain about the wind, or will you reset your sail? Will you wait for the year to end, or will you start now and make this the turning point. The choice is yours. It always has been. And when you've made that choice, when you've committed, don't stop here. Because there's more to learn. Life doesn't just move in days or months. Life moves in seasons. And just as surely as September will turn into October, autumn will turn into winter. Winter always comes, but spring always follows. Summer demands effort, and fall demands accountability. If you can learn how to live in rhythm with the seasons, then no matter what life brings, you'll be prepared. You'll know how to plant, how to protect, how to harvest, how to endure. And that knowledge will keep you steady when others are shaken. So join me in the next lesson, where we'll study the seasons of life. Because if you can master the seasons, you'll never again be surprised. You'll always know what to do. And that is the secret to lasting success. For now, remember this. The best path to success is not behind you. It's not waiting for January. It's not hiding in luck or chance. It's right in front of you. And it begins here. It begins now. It begins in September. Take the challenge. 30 days to a completely new you.